Hello, great people. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are watching from. Have you had the latest Biafra Referendum in the news? This has a connection with UN. Yes, Pro-Biafra Agitation Group, IPOB, is discussing with UN on a Biafra referendum. You know what that means? Hey, this is the talk of the season as we speak. This is the discussion on board. They are discussing with UN. This time around, they are taking it to another level. We are going to look into it. But before then, let's watch this video and we'll be right back.
The indigenous people of Biafra on Tuesday claimed to be in talks with the United Nations to hold a referendum for a sovereign state of Biafra. In a statement by the group's media and publicity secretary, Ima Powerful, the group is making efforts for the referendum any moment soon, adding that residents within the Biafra territory and those living beyond the boundaries of Biafra will be able to determine their own fate. The group expects the United Nations to supervise the referendum and are calling for freedom for all and not just for Biafrans alone. I mean, this is another, what do you call it, Brexit?
Yes.
How is it possible to have a sovereign state without any form of, partition? I mean, I would like to know, how does that work?
It's possible. Okay. You can have, these are called, there are different types of referendums. These ones are called independence referendums. And an independence referendum does not actually need the consent of the national government. What tends to happen is if there's some kind of separatist movement, and that separatist movement get support maybe at an election, they can now use that momentum to demand a referendum, not even of the national, or in our case, the federal government, just of their own people.
Okay.
They put a question on the ballot and people answer the question and they vote. And the United Nations will not call a referendum. Every country has their sovereignty. The United Nations will supervise, they'll observe if they're told to, they'll monitor a referendum if they're asked to. The United Nations is also relevant if the referendum succeeds and maybe the national government doesn't want to apply, the results of the referendum. The United Nations can come in and recognize that country as an independent country to give that referendum credence. So, yeah.
So then what happens to the people that are not in support of the sovereign state of Biafra, that are in that territory as well? What happens?
I'm speaking hypothetically.
Yes.
The referendum might not even happen because, like I said, it usually happens on the back of a popular movement. There has to be some momentum. You can't just wake up and have a referendum. Like if there's an election, for example, and let's say, I don't know, a particular political party, a separatist party, wins all the states, then from there you can now use that momentum to call for a referendum. Right now that has not happened.
Yes.
So if at all the referendum does happen, if people vote no, then vote to be counted, then it's no, and they stay in Nigeria. But if there's an overwhelming yes or a majority yes, then they leave. If at all the federal government allows it. And the United Nations and the international community rally around the new state.
Well, they have claimed that it's going to be a peaceful process. I don't know how that's going to be, but I think that we can come back to continue on this discussion.
Let's take a short break. When we return, I will give you my views on the issue of the referendum. Well, before we went on break, we were talking about the request of the IPOB, Indigenous Peoples of Biafra, through Emma Powerful, the secretary, asking for a referendum to be organized by the United Nations. Now, the subject we're dealing with, basically, is self-determination. And self-determination, is an internationally recognized right by various UN conventions. Whether you are talking about Kosovo, or you are talking about East Timor, or you are talking about Cameroon. And it is indeed true that the United Nations can supervise referendums. The right of a people to determine their own future, to determine their own sovereignty. Now, two examples. In February 1961, the UN supervised the referendum to determine whether Northern Cameroon or Southern Cameroon would join Nigeria or join Cameroon. And that referendum was conducted. At the end of the day, when the votes were tallied, people can vote yes or no. At the end of it, Northern Cameroon joined Nigeria. Southern Cameroon, led by Ndeli and Co., joined Cameroon, the French-speaking Cameroon. Now, this was the decision over the British-occupied part of Cameroon at the time. In 1999, it was East Timor. And it was the president of Indonesia at the time who approached the United Nations to allow the people of East Timor to decide whether they would like to have special autonomy within Indonesia or have their own independence. And of course, they rejected special autonomy within Indonesia. In 2002, East Timor became independent on its own. And then you have the example of Kosovo and all of that. But whatever happens, there is no way that the United Nations can do a referendum inside Nigeria over and above the head of an existing sovereign. That is the Nigerian government itself.
Yes.
Now, would there be a referendum in Biafra? And how will it pan out? I know that there are many agitators from the eastern part of the country who say Nigeria has been unjust to Igbos in the Nigerian Federation, that Igbos have been marginalized, because at the basis of questions of self-determination, it's always about citizenship, it's always about justice, it's always about equity. Would they be able to get enough votes? Well, my gut feeling is that, look, most Igbos will probably not want to leave Nigeria. I may be wrong. And speaking for myself, I'd rather have Nigeria as it is, as a diverse nation, you know, as this rainbow nation, multicultural. And I mean, a Nigeria without Igbos would not be the same Nigeria.
All right,
but
and I hope that even if it is put to vote, that more Igbos would rather stay in Nigeria, because Igbos are already, you know, completely enmeshed in the Nigerian Federation. They are part of the fabric of this country. And I think that the ordinary Igbo man does not share the same sentiments with Emma Powerful.
Well, you never know.
Hello, great people. Are you there? Like I told you, the discussion is referendum. It has come up again. And it is not something too big to ask for. Yeah. Normally, if Nigeria is a sensible country, sincerely, they will organize it, and let's see if these people can, you know, if they could muster such number to leave. Yes. But because we are in a country that has not undergone, you know, there is still this primitivity problem. Yes. That is why. If you're in a country that is advanced, like the UK, you saw what happened. The island, you know, Scotland, you know, though they didn't succeed because they didn't get the right numbers to leave. But if they have gotten that, they would have left UK. And UK left EU, yes, after a referendum. Slightly, the ones saying let's leave EU were more, slightly. Yes. The ones saying let's leave EU were more. And they left. So it's not something that is too hard to ask for. You understand? And what has happened is that IPOB, through their spokesman, Emma Powerful, said they are working with UN for a possible Biafra referendum. They say not just for Biafra, for other groups, because right now in Nigeria there are several secessionist groups, even among the Yorubas. Yes, there are groups wanting secession from Nigeria. That is it. So they are wanting referendum to be conducted for several of these groups to know those who are still willing. Because at the first place, I don't know whose permission they sought to merge people that are of different interests. Our interest does not rhyme. We are different in many things. Our interests are different. And that is why this country refused to move. Yes. So they're asking for referendum for not just Biafra, other groups. And like the First Lady said, it does not need the support of does not necessarily need the support of the national government. But you can say it does not need the support of the national government, but you need to know something, that, like the First Lady noted. The case of Catalonia, remember, Spain did not approve it. They went on, and most of their leaders were arrested. I'm not trying to discourage anybody, but we are still discussing this. So I'm feeling that just like Abati said, the central government should be involved, the national government of that country. And UN will never force any country to arrange for a referendum. UN will never interfere with the sovereignty of any country, even though they are the ones that components of this UN are the ones that match this nonsense. So normally what UN's role in or during this referendum is normally to supervise, to monitor it. That's what they would do. Just like having foreign investigators during an election in your country. And by the way, referendum is like election. It's a plebiscite. But depend on what the plebiscite is done for. In the case of referendum, you are saying yes to this or no to this. Yes, want Biafra to leave, no to Nigeria. Something like that. Depends. That is the case. And you know those in support and those who are not in support. Now, there is what this Arise TV person said. You know, everybody with their own opinion. Before Ruben Abati entered, he said they have not really had what it takes to ask for a referendum. That requires a political party. She's trying to say IPOB is supposed to be a political force in the country, not just an agitation group. That's what she's trying to say. They're supposed to be a formidable political force, having a political party getting involved. And, you know, maybe because of the fallout or one thing or the other, they can choose to ask for a referendum. Or having gotten a massive following or followership. Because if you look at the size of IPOB and IPOB followers, massive. But for her, she said they are not yet a political force. They are just, what do you think? Add your comment on the comment section. We'd like to know what you think about that. And concerning a referendum, they said you need an international community. You need the international community to back you up. That is not the first process. But I think what Emma Powerful and Co are doing is getting the international support. But then, UN, according to what I've heard and known, will never force your country. Unless maybe there is a case of a war and they were part of stopping the war and realizing these people who are, these warring factions may not live together again. I think in that case, they might come in, okay, let's split this place. They can't stay together. But in a normal situation like this, I don't think they have the power to interfere with any sovereignty. What do you think? Then Ruben Abati said something. He said not everybody will share that same view with a more powerful and IPOB, that certainly that if there will be a referendum, that many Igbos will not want to go. Ruben, I think you are lying. You don't speak for the generality of Igbo. In fact, you are just one man. I think Nigeria should try, the government of Nigeria should try, and let's see. And don't sit down in the studio and start predicting what you don't know. The government of Nigeria should arrange for such a referendum, and let's see how it goes. You can't just conclude from that studio. And do you know what? You don't know what Nigeria is afraid of. Nigeria is already afraid of what the outcome will be. Nigeria is already afraid of what the outcome will be. Yes, thank you for acknowledging that Nigeria will never be the same without Igbo people. Of course, Igbo people are a major ethnicity in Nigeria, like Yorubas and the Hausas, and Nigeria can never be the same with them. Certainly, if you cut part of a bread, a major part of a bread, the bread will have the shape, it will lose its shape. But then, for you to sit there and decide that many Igbos will not toe in the line of leaving Nigeria, I don't think you are correct. Let's try first and see. That is what, let's try that first and see. And like I said, that is what Nigeria is afraid of. But I will leave viewers to add their comment, tell us what you think. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more updates. Bye-bye for now.